Many experienced backpackers believe it's reasonable to expect we will experience some inconveniences and discomfort if we spend enough time hiking. For example, heavy rain could send water running ankle deep down the trail we're on, or the trail might be blocked by a fallen tree. And if we're in a wilderness area with no prepared trail, there could be more inconveniences. But what if we experience something really nasty, something that gives us a good scare or is even dangerous? How do we react? How do we frame the experience? Can we learn anything from it? Let's look at one example. When I was 13 years old, I decided to hike to a nearby lake on public ground, walk around the lake, and return home. 10 miles total. I had assumed a dirt road surrounded the lake, but I was wrong. I walked past the road's dead end and figured I'd be fine if I stayed close to the shore. Pretty soon I came to an area that looked wet, with a number of cattails and other plants growing in it. Without giving it a thought, I started walking through the plants. Very quickly I was in water above my knees and I could feel mud pulling on my feet. The vegetation was pretty thick and I couldn't tell how far I had to go to reach dry ground. Being 13 years old, I didn't have much experience with unpleasant surprises, and I got scared. As I was fighting the mud and water, I started crying and praying and yelling every dirty word I knew, and I knew every dirty word in the English language. After about 60 feet of this, I was back on dry ground, dripping water and mud. As I stood there, my 13-year-old mind could have reacted to this experience in one of several ways. I could have said, "Hiking sucks, I hate it." Or I could have asked, "Why is life so mean and unfair?" As it happened, I walked a few yards away from the lake and saw dry ground I easily could have used instead. When I saw that, I realized, boy, I screwed up completely. This realization was accompanied by a sense of burning embarrassment and anger with myself. I could have avoided the whole mess if I had just kept the lake in sight instead of walking along the shore. I was so embarrassed, in fact, that until now I've never told anybody what happened on that day. Even so, I consider the experience the best lesson I ever learned in the outdoors. I realized my basic mistake was that I did not think. I did not use my head. I should have, because I had no idea how deep that water was. I did not look for other options. I did not think other options were even necessary. I like to be able to say that since then I've always used my head and avoided serious trouble. But if I said that, I would be lying. I was an adult when I wandered into a woods covering about 3,000 acres in northern Ontario. I thought I had a compass in my pocket. But no, my compass was in my car, several miles away. As one might expect, I got completely lost. The entire thing was my own fault. I made it out of there by the skin of my teeth and told that story in another video. The link's in the description. These stories may be extreme, but if we backpack or hike enough miles, even on well-marked trails, we can face situations or problems we could not anticipate. Before we talk about problems we cannot anticipate, let's talk about those we might anticipate. This channel, other YouTube channels, books, and a variety of websites give us details about the Appalachian Trail. We can find similar resources for other famous trails. If we can manage to remember everything we hear or read, even a small detail could keep us out of trouble later on. Even so, a bit of a paradox is at work. If I say, climbing up and down the hills of the AT requires strenuous effort, I can be accused of uttering the understatement of the year. Certainly, some individuals can fly up and down those hills effortlessly while carrying a heavy pack. But many of us are not that fortunate. Despite all we might learn in advance, we have to actually get on those hills and experience them firsthand to truly understand what they mean to us. Based on all I have seen, the genuine part of education begins when we actually get out there and start doing it. It's easy for a beginner to fear things that are statistical rarities. I earlier told how the editions of Colin Fletcher's book, The Complete Walker, goes into this in some detail. Some beginners are tempted to carry things to deal with potential emergencies that in reality stand far less than 1% of actually happening. While many people warn against doing that, nothing drives the point home better than actually gaining the experience that convinces us those people are correct. Overconfidence also might work against us. I've shown this list before. Things we absolutely have to take care of on a long trail. On the AT, rain can fall on us in sheets. Freezing temperatures can strike in April. I'm always ready to deal with the nastiest weather that might strike, because oftentimes it will. Which brings us back to unanticipated problems. If we love the outdoors and want adventure, unanticipated problems are part of the package. In my videos, I have talked about potential risks, but that does not mean I can anticipate every challenge that might present itself. It can be argued the AT is a pretty safe environment, at least compared to some other places. Sometimes other hikers will be around who might at least provide moral support. Yet, I can only say I have learned my own self-reliance is my best friend, no matter where I am in the outdoors. A big part of that is being prepared to be cautious when necessary. Sometimes a little voice in our head says, this might be a problem. My advice is always listen to that little voice. If we identify a potential problem, we have to consider our options. We might have to come to a dead stop and study the issue for 15 minutes before we decide a plan of action. The best answer might be to move slowly and carefully. We might decide we are missing some piece of gear we need to buy as soon as possible. If we get seriously injured, the only option might be to call for help. I discussed that in another video. The link's in the description. Some problems are minor, petty annoyances that get more annoying the longer we have to deal with them. With most of those, I eventually found ways to make things less annoying. Again, speaking personally, if I got myself into some mess, I'm at least happy I lived through it without serious injury, which has always happened, at least while backpacking. It is not exactly a fun thing to do, but I always ask myself what role I played in letting the problem happen in the first place. What did I ignore that I should not have ignored? What can I do to prevent it from happening again? In the outdoors, I have learned many lessons the hard way. It might be that I could not have learned those lessons any other way. I see no shame in learning the hard way as long as we learn. And with that, we're once again done. My heartfelt thanks goes out to all my subscribers. If you have not yet subscribed, please consider it. And like I always say, thanks a million for watching.